As far as NIL goes and capitalizing on it on the recruiting trail, not sure there's a better program in the country more prepared to capitalize on that than USC, and a recent piece of news reveals just why. Let's go.
Are Locked On Pac-12, your daily podcast on the Pac-12 Conference. It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On Pac-12. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, D1 play-by-play broadcaster. Thanks for making this your first listen or your first view of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one source to stay up to date with the Conference of Champions, which is why you should like, comment, subscribe wherever you're listening to or watching the show if you have not done so already. I appreciate all of you out there who have done so. We're getting very close to 500 subscribers on the YouTube channel, which is awesome. Thank you all for that. Keep hitting that subscribe button. I really, really do appreciate it. And it helps with the show as well, which is brought to you today by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. NIL is a big topic in college football, and we're going to get some college basketball a little bit later today and look at where the Pac-12's players went in the league and kind of how they might shape out in terms of their pro careers. But this mailbag question came in via the YouTube comments, which is one of the 4 ways you can get a question answered here on the show by yours truly for all the world to hear. You tweet with the hashtag AskLOP12, you hop in the YouTube comments, or you DM me personally at smalls_55 or at LO_Pac12. Any of those accounts, DMs wide open. Hop in there, ask me a question, get an answer here on the show. This one comes on YouTube via How Are You is the user's name. How are you, friend? What's up with the recent rumors going around that Warner Brothers and Universal Pictures having interest on working out a potential NIL partnership with USC? Can you cover that topic, please? Why, yes, of course I can, because if you ask, I'm going to answer it. Now, how are you? I'm just going to call you my friend for the day rather than saying that out, but it's also how and then uppercase are you. Points for creativity and uniqueness over there. I did some digging and I was searching around looking for, rumors of this partnership that you alluded to. I was not able to find anything. It was not for a lack of trying. I did not do a one-line Google search, not see it as the top option, and then say, oh, well, I guess it isn't there, and so is making it up. That's not what I'm saying in any way, shape, or form. What I am saying is that if these rumors are out there, you have to be slightly more connected to the university than I am, perhaps, to know about them. I've seen nothing very legitimate. A couple random people on Twitter talking about like, oh, is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? But there's nothing reputable that is in the works that I've been able to find. If you do find a legitimate news outlet or reporter or someone breaking that it's potentially going to be there, then by all means, drop the link in the YouTube comments so everybody can see. But I did some research. I wasn't able to find it. However, when he first proposed the question and said, can you cover that topic, please? I thought, boy, the idea of this happening doesn't surprise me in the slightest because USC is arguably more than any school in the country except maybe Alabama, but there are different ways that those 2 schools can capitalize on NIL. I think USC is poised to maximize the potential that they have there more than anybody else. Now, do they need to get back to their winning ways to fully realize its potential on the recruiting trail? Probably. But is it a major advantage to be in Los Angeles, to be close to Hollywood, to have, I mean, you're not asking this question about anybody else or wherever he heard about this potential partnership there with Warner Brothers and Universal Pictures. Like, you're not hearing about that with regards to any other school. There's a reason for that. But I just find it fascinating when I was thinking about it because I was like, boy, if every school is at their best, who could offer you more NIL opportunities than USC? You have so many big time big time companies and media companies specifically. I mean, you're in Los Angeles for goodness sake, and you're not just in Los Angeles, right? Because I don't think this same sort of standard applies to UCLA because you don't have the glitz and glamour and the history as a program as USC does. And so when I think about a school that could go out and put together an NIL package or offer these opportunities to recruits or how high school kids are going to think about it, USC is probably the most well known in that sense. I mean, think about the heyday of USC football. Who were at the games? Every celebrity in town. It was like a Lakers game, right? Yeah, every time. That's a big thing that they do whenever the Lakers are on TNT or ESPN for a game, is they show what celebrities are sitting courtside. It's like, look, Jack Nicholson's over here and a baseball player's over there and Bryson DeChambeau's over here, and there's just all sorts of people at these games. They do it with other teams as well, but in Los Angeles, that sort of stuff tends to hit differently. So I think that having that appeal and embracing it is a really good thing. Now, I wasn't able to find anything about Universal or Warner Brothers, though it wouldn't surprise me if they got into that particular sphere because anybody can kind of do anything right now because there are not a ton of rules and regulations, the likes of which I think will eventually come in the next couple of years in the college football landscape. But what I did see was a partnership that USC announced with a company called Stay Doubted, which is kind of like that's like a cool, edgy name for a media company. As an organization, they say, quote, Stay Doubted is a modern day media company creating original digital. I don't know if I would put original and digital right back to back there, though it is kind of memorable, but can be hard to say. Original digital, audio. See, now I can't, and it sounds weird in my head, and so okay, I got to stop. Stay Doubted is a modern day media company creating original digital, audio, and physical programming for next generation audiences passionate about the intersection of athlete lifestyle and culture. Trusted by some of the most prominent athletes, creators, and Fortune 500 brands, Stay Doubted's work has been in nearly every major cultural moment, including the Super Bowl, college football playoff, that's the one we care about the most, March Madness, that's the one we care about second most, NBA All-Star Game, and more. So when I saw that, and this was announced just within the last, 8 to 10 days or so, um, it makes so much sense for all the reasons that I was just talking about. Like, what is a more glamorous place to be in terms of getting your name out there, being involved with media companies like this one or many others, right? There's no shortage of people there who would want to capitalize on the marketability of college football players at the University of Southern California than in Los Angeles. It's a perfect fit in that sense. And I think it's a big advantage for USC to have that. We'll see how NIL changes going forward, right? And whether or not there are some more rules and regulations that come down. But even if that happens, it'll always be something you can go and talk to recruits about. And maybe it's not the driving factor, but would I rather have that as a tool in my toolbox than not have it? Yeah, I would. And I think that USC is going to be able to embrace that. And this is clearly, indicative of what I'm talking about, and that they're, going in on it, and they've partnered with this organization, and they, want to be able to give that option to their student athletes, and that's not going to do anything but help them on the recruiting trail because it just has that big feel when USC is at its peak more so than at other places. Speaking of reaching a peak and maximizing potential, Pac-12 sent a number of players into the NBA draft. Not like a huge number, not a huge number of stars, but where'd they go and where did or where could they go with their careers? I'll tell you that after I tell you that BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. Go Mariners. As I am recording this, speaking of Los Angeles, they got into a little bit of a fight today with the LA Angels, and well, let's just say it was exciting. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. I wonder if there was a bet of, whether or not the Mariners and Angels would get into a fight because there were some tensions going into that, and they've played a lot recently. You never know, but you won't know if it was there until you go and look at BetOnline. You should head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online where the game starts. And no, I'm not guaranteeing you can bet on whether or not there is a fight in a Major League Baseball game, but there's plenty of stuff to gamble on over there if you want to. Bet online where the game starts. So, Pac-12 basketball NBA draft recap. Not an incredible year for the Conference of Champions. I'm sure Bill Walton would be just absolutely livid that there were not more players selected. Johnny Juzang, most notably among them, went undrafted. We'll get to his teammate Peyton Watson here in a sec, but we'll go in order here. There were 6 players altogether who were drafted, and Johnny Juzang, by the way, did sign a 2-way deal with the Utah Jazz, the former UCLA Bruin, who led them to the Final Four in the 2020-2021 season, and then to I think they got Sweet 16 or Elite Eight, one of the two. I think it was Sweet 16 this year. Lost to North Carolina. Yes, that would have been Sweet 16. Benedict Mathurin went number 6 to the Indiana Pacers. It was pretty clear going into the draft that he was going to be the top player selected from the conference, because if you watch the conference this year and if you watch March Madness as well, it was pretty obvious that Benedict Mathurin was just about always the best player on the court. And he's a lot taller than you think. He's taken with the number 6 overall pick to the Indiana Pacers. And then Dalen Terry was the next pick, his teammate at Arizona. He goes number 18 to the Bulls. Felt like that was a little bit of a reach. And then Peyton Watson is the 30th pick in the draft to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who had 3 first-round picks. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams from the West Coast Conference, Gonzaga and Santa Clara, respectively. Got to shout out my alma mater there. Go Broncos. And I know Jalen Williams. He's a great guy and a really, really good player as well. But Peyton Watson goes to OKC. Christian Coloco, 33rd overall to the Toronto Raptors. He gets to go up to Canada for a while. Isaiah Mobley joins his brother Evan, which is pretty cool, in Cleveland with the Cavaliers. And then the last Pac-12 player selected out of the school out there in Boulder, Jabari Walker, former Colorado Buffalo, goes number 57 to my beloved Portland Trail Blazers, who took Shaden Sharp with the number 7 overall pick, and we'll see. I don't have that many hopes for the Blazers. it's a dark time to be a Pacific Northwest sports fan right now. But anyway, so we're gonna go through who's got the highest ceiling, what the best value pick is here, the best potential steal, and then the biggest question mark, right? Of the 6 picks, who gets each of those 4 tiles? Highest ceiling, this is an easy one. Benedict Mathurin. He is really good. He can score at all 3 levels. He is freakishly athletic, has high potential at the defensive end. And I mean, just a basketball player, right? He can handle the ball a lot. I think you could put him on the wing and play him as a big 2. I think he could play as a 3. I'm going to look up how tall he is exactly. But, you know, he's just a guy who just pops off of the screen. He's 6'5", so could maybe play a small ball 3. I think he's, kind of a hybrid 1 or 2. Speaking of the Portland Trailblazers, I think he's an athletic CJ McCollum. I think he's going to score a lot of points. He can be a ball handler, but doesn't have to be at all times, can play off the ball because he can score at all 3 levels. He finishes at the rim very, very well, which is easy to do when you're 6'5" and you can jump out of the gym with springboards down there in your shoes. It makes it a little bit easier. So I think he's got the total package. I think this is a good pick by the Pacers because they need playmakers, and I think he's fairly NBA ready, but like most guys nowadays who are coming out after 1 year of college basketball, you're going to need some time to fully develop and hit your ceiling. But I think that he was a clear-cut top selection out of the conference, and there's no questioning that pick there at number 6 from the Pacers. The best value pick, I think, is his teammate Christian Coloco going to the Raptors. Now, he needs to develop an offensive game. He is not a refined offensive player, but his size and athleticism and presence at the defensive end, I think early in his career, he could very easily be a backup big who's defensively oriented. And there's always, 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 always a place for that in the NBA. Think of JaVale McGee on the Warriors, right? He was there for, I think, 3 of their championship rings. Maybe, he was not on this most recent team, I don't believe, but he was on the 2 with Kevin Durant and the one where they got to the finals in 2019. Durant and Klay Thompson, of course, got hurt. there's always room for bigs who are willing to come in and defend and who are capable of doing so. And his athleticism, much like Mathurin's, pops off the television screen. He is prolific in that sense, and if he can refine his offensive game a little bit, I think he'll carve out more of a role for himself. But I think that right now that's kind of what's limiting his total upside in the NBA. I'm going to pull up his offensive stats here. It's not that he can't score at all, but he's definitely. I mean, he's 7'1", 230 pounds, just a ridiculous athlete. And I think that when you watch him play, you just kind of always know where he is. And he's a 3-year player at Arizona, and did average 12 and a half points a game, 7 boards, and almost 3 blocks per contest this year. So making his money at the defensive end and rebounding, and just quite the physical specimen. I think if you can find somebody who can be an immediate rotational player essentially right away with the 33rd pick, I think that's why it's kind of the best value when you're looking at the 6 guys who were taken out of the Pac-12 conference this year. The best potential steal of these guys is Jabari Walker, and here's why. Jabari Walker is a well-rounded power forward, and he plays at a position on a team that doesn't really have an established power forward at this point in time. Now, the Blazers did just acquire Jeremy Grant, which solid move, not bad. But whether or not they're going to play him at the 3 or the 4 remains to be seen, right? They could go Dame, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart at the 3, Jeremy Grant at the 4, and Nurkic at the 5, in which case Walker would be coming off the bench, and he joins another former Pac-12 player, CJ Ellaby, who has struggled to crack the rotation consistently. He's just not been able to really put it all together. He's really only gotten in garbage time. But I think when you look at a guy like Walker, the reason I say it's the best potential steal is if he's someone who can pop, and Jay Billis was very, very high on that draft pick by the Blazers there late in the second round. I think he was the second or third to last player selected in the league, number 57, and I'm pretty sure I think there were 59 picks this year because somebody lost one because of a penalty or some such. Because I think I saw that he was the second to last pick in the draft, so there might have only been 50. Whatever the case may be, late second round. Positionally, the opportunity is there for him to show what he can do, and I think he does a lot of things very well. He was, I think, a 14-point a game scorer this year, 7 boards, and just you watch him play, and you go, yeah, that's an NBA body, and so if he's able to pop, I think he'll get that opportunity. Whereas some guys get drafted and they never really get the chance to see the floor because they have too many guys in front of them. But the front court, particularly the 3 and 4 slots for the Blazers, it's been a revolving door of guys over the years, and he has the opportunity potentially to step in and take that role. Though I wouldn't necessarily expect it. I also wouldn't be that surprised if it ends up happening, and he at least carves out a role for himself in the Blazers rotation. The biggest question mark here, and this was a surprise to me, is Peyton Watson. Now, Peyton Watson came to UCLA this year as a big-time 5-star recruit, but was never the guy. And this is just such a strange thing about the NBA, is they are so willing, even more so than the NFL, because guys can just go one and done in college basketball, whereas in college football, you have to play for at least 3 seasons, regardless of position, or at least be on campus for 3 seasons. The NBA is so willing. Those teams are more than willing to take a guy with the physical gifts, but hasn't shown the potential to be an elite player and try and develop him. It's not about a rapid turnaround with draft picks in the NBA. It's more about playing the long game and playing the development game. And that's clearly what Oklahoma City is doing here. I think with all 3 of their draft picks, right? Chet Holmgren needs to put on some weight, needs to learn how to be more physical, and will have some major adjustments when we talk about going from the WCC to the NBA. Jalen Williams the same, though he doesn't need to put on any weight. He's got an NBA body, 6'6", 7'2" wingspan. He's a really good athlete as well, great defender, but I think they're playing the long game here, and you look at the status of their franchise, that's clearly the case. And I think that's what they're doing here with Peyton Watson, who this year Remember, this is now a first-round NBA draft pick, or the 30th pick in the draft, which I think was in the whatever. I don't even go back into that. 3.3 points a game, just under 3 rebounds a game, and he came off the bench in 32 games for the Bruins. Now, he was a big-time recruit, but that's such a minimal amount of production. Not even 3.5 points a game. And he was taken with the 30th pick in the NBA draft. To me, when I saw that selection, I thought Shabazz Muhammad, who was a big-time 5-star recruit, who went to UCLA, who went to the Timberwolves, and it didn't pan out. And he never fully lived up to the hype and expectations that were there. And not everybody does. There's so many factors in play when you're talking about a guy realizing his full potential as a professional in any sport. But this pick was just puzzling. And I think OKC is, in a position where they're able to wait and see if he's able to develop. But that's a big, if I'm talking about the biggest question mark amongst these guys, that's the easy solution. That's the easy answer, because he's just barely played. He hasn't shown that he could be a regular rotation player who produces at a high level in Power 5 college basketball. And you're now taking him with the expectation he could become that, or maybe even more in the NBA. That's weird, and feels a little bit like a reach. But on the flip side of the coin, right, the glass half full side of me is saying a lot of guys come out of high school and they're ready to go to the league. Kobe was, LeBron was, Kevin Garnett was. I think we can all agree, players like Zion Williamson didn't need to go to Duke to be ready for the league, though he needed to do other things to get ready for the league, like get in shape. But that's the biggest question mark there, easily. Rooting for all these guys, and obviously the most fun draft pick is Isaiah Mobley going to play with his brother. I mean, they go to college together and play, and then Evan's really good with the Cavs. Now Isaiah's there. Evan's the more talented of the two by a decent amount, but Isaiah could certainly crack the rotation, and I'm sure there'll be a moment this year where they're both on the court together, and I think that'd be a really, really cool moment. So we'll end it there with a sense of optimism going forward. I appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.